Hi, my name is Kate and welcome to our channel. Today I'm going to have a conversation with Dr. Natasha Cabrera. She's a professor in the Department of Human Development and Quantitative Methodology, College of Education, University of Maryland. Natasha is known for her research in cognitive and social development of children, specifically focusing on the father's involvement on the child's development. I hope you will enjoy our conversation, and if so, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share with your friends.
A little bit more, what is the significant impact specifically of the father involvement in child development?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's really important, I think, as we think about how to integrate men into fatherhood programs, into policies, or even into our own daily lives. The research that I've been doing for the last almost 20 years now has been very much focused on understanding exactly what is it that fathers do that is different. Is it unique? Is it the same as mothers? And what we find is using observational data where we go to people's homes and I observe children playing with their dads, and then I bring it to the lab and we code it. What we observe is that fathers make a unique contribution to children's development, which means that it's not the same as moms. We do our thing and dads do their thing. And both things are super important for children's development. So for example, one really good example of this is in language development, which, back in the day, we would think that fathers are insensitive, that they talk to the children as adults, and that's bad, that we should use more gibberish or more, child, related or child-targeted language. But in fact, what we find is that fathers who talk to children in regular sentences, use complex and diverse words, that approach, that linguistic input is actually very important for children's development because fathers tend to be more linguistically challenging to a child than moms. So a dad might say, "What did you say? I have no idea. Repeat what you're saying. I can't understand you." And so the child wants to please and their dad, so they try harder to say the same thing in a way that is easy to understand. Dads ask a lot more WH questions. What are you saying? Where is that from? What would happen if you do this? Moms, we take everything. We accept any gibberish as a sign of life and, oh my God, it's celebration, right? Which is good. It's good to do that, but I think fathers push children to do a little more, to get out of their comfort zone, both linguistically, but also behaviorally. We see a dad saying, "Yeah, go ahead. Just, jump in the pool. I'll catch you." And me or a mom will be, maybe don't cut. We have swimming lessons first. We want 3 lifeguards, and then you go into the pool. And dads are a little more take a risk in a calculated, important way. And all these things are really good for kids. So those are really good examples on how fathers, in a specific, unique way of interacting with children, has an impact on their development. Everything from language to social development. We're just finishing a study, actually, a really interesting study, looking at what we call dyadic interactions, where the father and the child are in sync with each other. They are tuned. They're really in sync. They are listening to the same things. They're paying attention. And what we find is that those children are better able to regulate their emotions and their behaviors. So when we give a task, we call a snack delay task, where we say to the kid, "This is something you want, but you need to wait until I tell you and you eat it." Similar to the marshmallow, except less cruel. Yeah. We find that those children who are able to wait, these are little babies, like 24 months, those children tend to have fathers who have who are more in sync with them when they interact with the children. So it seems like children are modeling these regulatory behaviors by being in this really nice dyadic, synchronous interactions with their dads.
That's interesting. Do you know, or maybe you have the further study in the planning, that is it different when the child is attuned to the relationship with the mom and they are in sync? Do you observe the same behavior in terms of self-regulation?
It's so interesting. So far we're not finding, it doesn't mean that moms don't matter. It just, it's more immediate for dads. And with moms, the effect is more indirect. Mom's dyadic interaction helps children to develop early skills And those early skills then help with self-regulation later. With dads, it's more direct. A lot of studies have found much more direct effects. The dads engage in this behavior and you see it in the child, whereas with moms tends to be more contextual. And, this is one of the puzzling things, but it also tells me that it's much easier or different to interact or to intervene with dads. If you say to dads, read this book and learn about child development and your child will do better, they tend to follow directions and they just do them. It's not as contextual, but it's fascinating. And as I said, these are little babies, and we're finding that the father-child relationship is much more, when they're attuned with each other, is much more predictive of self-regulatory behaviors than mothers at this age.
Yeah, very interesting, fascinating. I would say. Talking about the age, do you see or do you know from the research, there is any age difference in terms of how the father, what are the benefits of the father involvement? Because you were now saying about quite small children. Let's talk like the range from little babies till the preschool, for example, age.
Yeah.
Is there any age difference in that term?
That's also a very good question. I think, this early, what we call the early effects, where father's relationship with a child beginning right at birth, even before you begin to really connect with this child, it builds over time and has this long cumulative longitudinal effects, if you like, on kids. We use another data set, much larger data set, to look at these early effects. How long can they last over development? If you have 2 good 3 years that are really good with your dad and you're close and you have this really healthy relationship, how often how long into the future we can expect those effects? And what we find is even at age 9 or 10, we see that early interactions have an effect. They're not super strong, but for what they are, 9 years later, they're still important as a way to understand children's social competence and social adjustment later on. But we need to think about what is mediating that relationship. So, fathers who are early are much involved in the children's lives early on. They tend to stay involved later on. So this cumulative is stable. The involvement is stable across time. And then, it's really, we don't have a lot of longitudinal data that could look at this transitional periods in development, so you have a great relationship with your infant and toddler, and then he turns into a little monster. It's hard. And then parents have to shift gears because now you need a whole different set of skills with a child who's a little older. And then, of course, the same thing when they go through adolescence. You need, that the relationship shifts. But and so we don't have a lot of that beautiful longitudinal data, but I think it's fair to say that this early years, this relationship is really foundational to kind of weather the storm, if you like, of these other transitional periods that may bring a relationship that might be challenging. When that, my dad loves me, he's just being crazy right now. It's a different thing than to say, I don't even know if he loves me. This is, I think children need to feel secure in that love, that no matter what, you can do crazy things, but that mom is not going to leave you. It's not going to abandon you. So I think those early years are super important to build this relationship, this foundation that should protect you across time. And we certainly find that. We have another study with really not very good data because we lost contact with the parents. But what we found was that children who say, I'm close to my dad, and we don't know if that dad was resident between 2 years old and 9 years old when we asked them that question, those children tend to be rated as more competent, they have more friends than children who say, I'm not close enough to my dad. So even the perception of being close to your dad, for some, real or not, this is what the child is perceiving, is super important. It's a really important protective factor for that child.